Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 482. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean William, drnorge. I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, the Duke of and the elder statesman of the podcast.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be doing the first of our two-part look at the Invasion crossover on the TV episodes. We're going to focus on the Supergirl kickoff and the Flash episode that followed it. So if you haven't watched both of those shows, you want to do so before chatting with us here. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. Mr. Segulin, we are sponsored once again this episode by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. What's going on at DCBS?
Well, come on, you know what's going on. Bundles, 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 bundles. They're continuing their support of the DC Universe, and they're continuing. And the thing I love about these bundles, one, they're 50% off. Yes, 50% off of the various different bundles, but they're updating the bundles. So as, with the Batwoman title coming on, as with the JSA title, with Justice League of America title coming on, as the Super Sons title comes in, they're adding them to the different bundles, and they're also continuing their support of Vertigo and Young Animals, as well as the different limited series. So check out DCBS. Get these great bundles. It really helps out with your comic book purchases. But guess what? DCBS isn't just about great deals on comic books. They're also great deals on statues. And right now, they're offering 3 different statues: black and white Batman statue designed by Jim Lee of Nightwing. Looks really cool. 32% off, only $54.40. They've got the Gotham City Garage Wonder Woman statue. Only way to describe this is a really cool looking statue of Wonder Woman with a really cool looking bike. Absolutely awesome looking. 32% off. That's $238. And you got the Wonder Woman Art of War statue. Really cool looking Wonder Woman. Nice combat pose. Looks absolutely wonderful. 32% off. Only $54.40. Thank you, DCBS.
I've been gradually collecting certain statues. Like, if not every month, every other month, I'll grab a different statue just because I like them in my office. Kind of building a collection of them. And it's really fun to look through them because the variety is absolutely amazing. Also sponsoring this episode is InStockTrades.com. Over at InStockTrades.com, always got the deals of the week. And the deals of the week are 50% off. DC Rebirth, Omnibus hardcover, 50% off, only $37.50. Absolute Infinite Crisis hardcover, 50% off, only $49.99. Legend of Wonder Woman hardcover. This is that digital release. It's 50% off, only $14.99. I do want to give a couple shout-outs to, I don't know if you've read any of the Star Wars comics, but they've got the Poe Dameron trade paperback, which was really sweet. 50% off, only $9.99. Star Wars Kanan. This is the character from the cartoon series, the animated series, which is really good. There's an omnibus of that. That's 50% off, only $17.49. I just shout them out because it's just really cool stuff, and I thought it would make people aware of it. If you're a Star Wars fan, these comics Marvel are putting out are really slick, so you're going to want to check those out. I want to thank DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show, and remind everyone that they're a digital partner. If you do Comixology or My Digital Comics, connect your accounts. Go to their portal. Do your shopping there. You earn 5% of your purchases every time towards your DCB service order if you use their portal. Doesn't cost you anything more. It does help our show sponsor, so please consider doing that if you're a digital buyer. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the Supergirl Medusa episode and the Flash episode of Invasion. So if you haven't watched these episodes, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics. Or actually, let's talk some TV shows. Force a habit there.
I know.
Got comics on the brain.
He is called Hawkman. His gauntlets possess awesome powers.
Jim, this is going to be a first of a two-part episode where we're going to be taking a look at the Invasion crossover. And we were kind of thinking about ways to do this, as far as do we speed through the episodes and kind of do them all in one, or do we really talk in depth about them? And we both kind of agreed that we really wanted to, because there's so much that was going on in this crossover, but also, in the Supergirl episode that was leading up to the crossover, that it was really worth just kind of taking our time and like organically talking about these episodes. And Supergirl's got a lot going on in that show. The kickoff was interesting because I guess I was assuming that was going to be fully about the crossover, and instead it was kind of a teaser that the crossover was coming, and I really quite enjoyed it. Since we last talked about this, I don't believe Cyborg Superman was on the show, was he?
I don't think so. I think we talked about it before he popped up, which I love the character and the usage of it. I know it's funny because when they first had Hank Henshaw, I was like, oh, okay, well, it's kind of neat that they've got the Martian Manhunter. Oh, okay, I know. And part of me was a little upset that we weren't going to get, I assumed we weren't going to get Cyborg Superman because Hank Henshaw. I'm like, oh, okay. Surprise. I hooped and hollered when they went and did that and they brought him in as the Cyborg Superman. I thought that was absolutely wonderful.
You know what I'm loving? We've got Jimmy Olsen running around as the Manhattan Guardian, and we talked about that one and how we liked it. I'm loving this whole secret thing that's going on right now. Supergirl's sister knows, and she's got her own little secret that she's dealing with right now as far as her relationship status, and that's like her moment right now. But these two guys are like, listen, it's time to come clean and let Supergirl know what's going on. Honestly, it got them into some trouble that she didn't know because of the fact that Manhattan Guardian was accused of murdering people.
Yeah.
And I really loved how this season's played out because it's not always all about Kara. It's about the supporting cast. These shows are doing such a great job of focusing on just the wide variety of people. Obviously, she's our focal point. Mon-El has just been a great addition to the show. I like that he's truly a fish out of water. Kara's been around a while. She's had a family. She's become acclimated to Earth. Seeing him come really adds this sense of what it would be like for an alien, even though he looks human, truly an alien interacting with this world, especially during the Thanksgiving feast, which I thought was great.
Hold on. Jump back a little bit on Mon-El.
Go ahead.
One of the things I loved was, the lead allergy that he has, but they didn't take it to the point where he can't live in the world. It's kind of, they kind of took it like with the whole kryptonite thing. When he got shot, but also the bullet injury was actually hurting even more with the lead until they were able to get the lead out. I like the fact that, they've kept that in canon, but they're not making it so he can't exist in the world. It's just, he's not going to be able to jump in front of the machine guns and take the bullets like Kara can because of, he's not impervious to lead. I love the fact that they kept it in there and they didn't get rid of that.
Yeah, well, and I like the fact, too, that when it was lodged inside his body, it was killing him.
Yeah.
But I'm with you in the sense that let's not go too far with it. Let's make it I think the balance is really great because I do feel it's true to canon. But at the same time, they said, how does it work in this world? So it's, to your point, interesting. And I do find it interesting. One of the things when we see the family around dinner, I love Helen Slater as the mother. I think she's just doing a really great job. And they had her, in this episode in particular, doing and leading up to it, doing a lot of interaction and really embracing her role. I love her as the scientist. I love the fact that she helped Mon-El. Everything about this episode was kind of a great wrapping up of everything leading Supergirl into the crossover. So it was really a cool episode that tied up a lot of arcs, set us up for where it's going to go moving forward. And I really appreciated the fact that the storylines, kind of like when we do with comics, we love crossovers in comics, but we always feel like strange when all of a sudden people are taken out of their continuity and dropped into a crossover. You're like, well, what happened? How does that even fit? These were all organic. Every single one of these episodes organically led into it, which is great writing. They just built right to it. Here's the crossover. It's everybody, is it, and I'm watching at the dinner right now where all of a sudden the vibe, the thing opens up. It's vibe trying to get through, and I loved how that all played out. This was before the opening credits. You get to see all of that sequence, and there's a lot of character development.
Well, and you talk about with the mom being played in there and the sister and just all these characters that are coming to that are just they're getting their own strength, they're getting their own stories, and when you talk about the mom coming in, I was so happy that we did get so much of the science stuff from her in this, and we did get those moments where we get to see her shine and her do her thing, and it was a neat to see this family dynamic that is inside especially the two sisters. Just I love this interaction these two have with Alex. She keeps drinking various forms of alcohol for the liquid courage to come out to the family, and Kara just keeps periodically taking it from her, to try to keep her sober. And just in the slight background, you see just Alex getting another booze after Kara took it away from her. Just little subtle stuff going on in the background that you have you got the main story developing in front of you, but just in the background, little subtle stuff like that. Those are some of the stuff that I really loved about this Thanksgiving scene.
Yeah, and you're right. That's a great deal of attention to detail. Because one of the nice things about this show is you have those sequences that show that these are two protective sisters. They're real people who protect each other. They have fights like sisters do. They're clearly different like sisters are, but yet they have that family bond, and that family bond's very important to them. And that was something I really enjoy about this show. And actually all of these shows that as we talk about them is the sense of family. And I'm not talking about necessarily blood relatives even or people who are raised together. I'm talking about friends who have become family. And that's something that is very inherent to comic books, right? There's the Batman family line, the Superman family line. There's people like Green Arrow who have the Team Arrow and all that kind of stuff. You and I love the Flash. We can go on and on about all of our favorite comic books, Green Lantern Corps. You get these characters that you put through these tremendously traumatic events, and then all of a sudden they start to develop these longevity bonds together that I find incredibly interesting, and I love when shows take the time to really get what makes comics work right on the screen.
And it does add that feel of realism to this crazy world where we have aliens who can fly and all the psycho suspension of disbelief you have to have. You still have these real human normal interactions. You look at just how close you are with the family you choose as opposed to the family you're born with. Those people that you choose to say, yes, this is my family, even though we don't have the same blood. You look at that closeness that you have in real life. Well, we see that closeness on the screen between these people. And that's always going to be that human connection to this amazing female who can fly, who's a Kryptonian, who has all these superhuman powers, but you can still see her as, that close female friend that you have. That you've been buddies with forever. Supergirl has those same type of qualities. You have that same type of connection, and it's that's the thing that I really just love about the writing and the acting and just the interaction. That these characters have. They've got this great groove going that I honestly believe these people are friends. That I'm like, it amazes me every time you see these interactions and you wonder when they yell cut, are these people just laughing and joking and having a ball with each other? Because again, it seems so real that they have to be friends. They have to be friends in real life because look how they're the greatest actors ever because you honestly truly feel that they're friends here, that they're family.
Yeah, and I think that believability is something that's really important. I think that obviously in a show like this has to do with casting. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall. And sometimes they put that on as extras, and I would like to see that down the road, like screen tests for certain characters, and what led to the choice of that particular actor or actress who's taken over those roles, because the casting of this is phenomenal. They understand the characters, and I would love to see if they do character studies, where they let them get to know their motivations. How they get into the heads of these characters is tremendous to me. Because we love this in comics, this interplay where the dynamic plays out on the screen. We get to see these great characters fleshed out over time. We get to see the times where they're in the costume, where they're out of the costume. We get to see them put in unique situations because comics are long form. So you can have that issue where you go, you know what, we've never done this before. Let's take an issue and just do this because it feels right for the character. It's an area, an angle to explore. That stuff is all super cool. And I really appreciated the fact that this show takes the time to really feel like a comic book. That's something that I'm really digging. The actor who's playing Hank Henshaw, you mentioned, and he's playing Martian Manhunter as well. And I am really, is it Dennis? I'm going to butcher his name. I'll have to look it up on IMDb while we're chatting here. But I really enjoy his portrayal of both of these characters. I think Martian Manhunter is one of those characters that I think is hard to get right. And I've started to really like him in the comics. He was a character I mentioned, years ago on the podcast that he was a character who I never really was deeply connected to, but I feel very differently now about him. I think I've read so much of the character in doing this podcast that I've really grown to enjoy John Jones and this sense of loss of his home world, his family. It really would be like one of us put on a world of complete aliens who look very different than me, who treat me differently because of the fact that I'm a human and I don't look like them. I think anytime you do a character like this right, it is in its own way a statement on a lot of society's ills, because you grow to love him for what he does and his conviction and his just wanting to do things right in spite of the fact that people are fearful of him. And I really enjoy that about the character. And obviously the McGann sequences are terrific. He's turning into a white Martian before our eyes. And this is a guy who's in charge. And he's in a sequence where he's no longer able to control himself, much less his transformations. And he's turning into what on his world would make him an abomination. It's a very interesting turn of events for him and a very interesting arc in the way that it played out. Did you want to see this play out longer than it did?
Not really. I think this was a good time, a good play out. Now, granted, it was a quick ending to it where, it was the mom went bam, 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 and she fired on all cylinders, doing a lot of cures and whatnot. But I don't know. I think they probably have bigger fish to fry than the whole Martian Manhunter changing to a white Martian. I think now that he's been cured, the interaction between him and McGann will be kind of very interesting, because he's no longer becoming a white Martian. And how can he get over the fact that she is one? Will he eventually identify that she isn't, the evil white Martians who destroyed his people? That she's somebody different, or is she somebody different? Is she accurate in his judgment? I think that's going to be where the story goes now. It's no longer going to be about him turning into a monster. And I liked, in this episode, their usage of, when he's fighting himself, that he turned into that, combination white-green Martian abomination when he was fighting Cyborg Superman, because it kind of made it easier on the actor to do the thing. So I kind of chuckled at that moment, going, "Oh, okay, that's kind of neat how they're doing it." So the actor doesn't have to keep punching into, so you don't keep showing the back shots, because that's one of the things they had to do when these two were fighting. You'd see the back of the one and the front of the other, because they had different, they had the body double standing in. So I thought it was kind of neat how they shifted that around. So I'm happy with the story, and I'm happy with the character, especially, you look at all the more modern tellings of Martian Manhunter with Smallville, his version, the version that was in the animated series, and now this one. I'm really digging this character. I'm digging who this guy is, to the point where I want to see him more in other media. I'd like to see him in the movie universe. I'd like to see this character more in comics. I'd like to see more of this, more interaction, and more of who this person is.
David Harewood, by the way, is the actor who plays John Jones. And I wanted to get his name right just because I'm really enjoying his portrayal of the character, and I think it's great. The other character I want to talk about a little bit is Win Shot. I'm so glad they didn't go the route of making him a villain. Just yes. Because of the fact that he's Toyman's kid. I like that they've kept him as their tech guy. And he's become so much more than that, though. His being Jimmy Olsen's confidant. And not just confidant, facilitator of the suit. And I like that the two of them have branched out together and they have this mini storyline that's going on. And he didn't fall into the background as the lovesick puppy that was after yes. Supergirl. I loved that initially. I'm not knocking that part. But I think, we've shifted beyond that now, and it's great to see that character continue to be with the show, to have a role in the DEO. You get why he's there, what he brings to the table. I like that he's awkward but yet smart, and that we clearly see him every episode where he's featured doing something really cool with tech to be of value. And I like that part of him. He feels very human to me, very real in his portrayal of this character.
I was very excited when they pulled him into the DDEEO or whatever. I always mess up the acronym for the department.
DEO. The Department of Extra Normal.
Yeah. The company. Right. I was very happy when they pulled him into that because, one, to me, that gave him more stability on the show. He wasn't, when they pulled him from being, over, in the magazine over to there, that gave him a place to shine. It mean the character was going to be around for a while, because I know he was a character that they were initially talking wasn't going to be a long-term character on this, because the actor is known and he's heavy on the Broadway scene and the act, the live theater, the musical theater and all that stuff. So there was always questions as to how long of a run he was going to do in Supergirl, because he needed to have the other options open for the other stuff, his other jobs that he does. So seeing him get pulled in there tells me, okay, he's not just going to be around this season. He's going to be around a couple seasons. He's going to have some life to him, and I was very happy and excited. Just again with his character, his development. He's not the lovesick puppy, as you said. He's his own strong character, and I want to see more stuff out of him. Again, it's. I want to see all these. They're doing a great job giving us these stories and giving us these side stories and giving us this side existence. And I'm happy and I'm excited, but I'm also greedy. I want more.
Mon-El versus Cyborg Superman was really great. And how it led to Mon-El's being outside of the bar. Yeah. And I like that we're seeing him become more of a hero. I've always liked Mon-El in the Legion of Superheroes. And I like that this is kind of a gradual origin of him as a hero, where we've seen him be very self-centered and, all about him. But as time's gone on, he's been inspired by Kara. He's starting to become more of the character that we know him to be in the comics. I like that he went back in. He saw people dying and all that. And rather than take some time and think, should I even go back in there? His instinct was to go in and save people. And I really like that evolution of the character. He's become somebody I really enjoy watching on the show. The actor playing him is doing a bang-up job.
Yeah, man, I'm digging him, and I'm digging the character. And as you said, he ran back into a building where a bunch of people just died, and a bunch of aliens just died, and he ran in without thinking. And I always say that's to me is a definition of a hero. And that's one of the things, like with police and fire. They're running into scenarios where, it's, especially like the firemen. It's one of those things that firefighters are your modern day, the real life, superheroes, where they're running into a burning building, a building where everyone else is desperately trying to get out. They're going, no, we're going to run into it. Same thing with police and our military. They're sitting there like they're going headfirst into a very hostile, dangerous situation, saying, this is what I do. This is my job. And I love that kind of, when you start thinking that stuff and you see these moments, these heroic moments that these people are doing, that it's like, man, that's awesome. And it's just one of those really cool. I'm very happy with how they're doing this character. They could have very easily kept him as the arrogant, stuck-up jerk, but they're letting this character grow, and we're going to eventually get kind of something out of him. I don't know if he's going to be a full-fledged hero or if he's going to be just kind of a support and jumping in and helping out every so often, but we're going to get something from him, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Lena Luthor is another character that I'm looking at, and her mom, and seeing this real situation where, her being adopted, the father always loved her, the mother, the adoptive mother, always made her feel lesser than her brother. And it's interesting, having grown up being adopted. I never experienced anything like this, but I could see how it would be something where, if you've got your child that you've given birth to versus the child you did not, where this could happen. And it's horrific, where Lena's basically known her whole life that she was viewed slightly lesser by Mom. Yeah. And Mom does not hesitate to use it against her in a way to manipulate situations, to manipulate her, and to try and have her do what she needs her to. This episode in particular, considering the fact that really it's a prelude to the crossover, has a lot of content in it, of character development that gets wrapped up pretty fast. And I really enjoy this because this is the whole Cadmus storyline, which obviously isn't all over now, but it's definitely been revealed who Cadmus is and what's going on in this episode, and comes to a head.
My theory on Lena Luthor, by the way, and this is just a gut is telling me this, that the dad is her biological father. And that's why he always liked her more. And especially why the mom never liked her, because, she was, her husband's affair, a child from an affair that her husband had. And they adopted her in, is because the dad wouldn't say, hey, dad's like, hey, this is my kid. But this was his way of having her be his daughter without acknowledging the affair. That's my guess right now. And that's just a ballpark guess it's just some weird thing that popped in my head. So I don't know if we'll ever get that story out or if that'll ever be proven, but to me, that's how I see this. And that's actually how I see this relationship. And I love complex and wonderfully evil, are they evil Luthors? And I love that when you do that with a story. The best Lex Luthor stories have those moments where he's doing something horrific, but there's some justification to it. Same thing with this mother-daughter just, stance against each other. You can completely understand it, and you say she's wrong and the mom's wrong in doing what she's doing, but there is some rationale behind it. You can kind of sympathize with her and understand her motivation behind what she's doing.
I thought when Mon-El got poisoned, that was an interesting bit. And when I say poisoned, I mean where it started to take him over to the point where he was dying. And Supergirl went rushing in there. I love those heroics because she's an alien. This could have contaminated her. She got lucky by the fact that the virus is from Krypton, it won't hurt Kryptonians. Yeah. And which becomes an interesting twist because it's part of this Medusa, which I loved that the blood was taken to access the Fortress of Solitude for Cyborg Superman and crew at Cadmus to be able to take care of and wipe out the aliens because it's their act of genocide. It's funny when you look at a character, though, like Cyborg Superman, and you say, why on earth would you want to take out aliens? Because, like you, they are quite a bit different. So why would you want to take out people that maybe could better understand you? It's always an interesting conundrum watching all that. There's times where I watch the show and I want to yell at certain people.
Well, there's something that I always yell about, and it's been on multiple stuff with various usages of the Fortress of Solitude, and it's the security system. And I let it go. I've learned to let it go because, I understand, but you think about it, the fact that Cyborg Superman was able to bypass all those security systems just because he had a vial of blood, not facial recognition software, genetic scans, anything. No. He had the blood on his hand and he put it on the readout. So there's no other defensive systems in the fortress. And I every time I get there, whenever I see it, and it's not just this, I always get that moment where I just want to yell at the screen, going, "Facial recognition software, we have it on Earth. They should have it in Krypton. Come on, But again. They tell it in the story. They say how they give an explanation. So I'm not complaining, and I'm not saying this stinks because of it, but it is always one of those things that it kind of just grates at me a little bit. I'm like, dang it, come on. At least in the classic comic, they had either the big giant key that he had to pick up and move in place, or that little tiny key that was made out of dwarf star material, so it was so heavy that only he could pick it up. Different stuff like that they had in the comic, and I just wish something like that would be kind of neat, to have in a TV show. Speaking
of the TV show and what's going on with the Fortress, I love the bits with the father.
Oh, yeah.
Where, it's not really the dad, but because of the way the computer system works, it's like she's talking to her dad and is finding out that they created this genocide virus that the Medusa that basically wipes out anybody that's not Kryptonian.
Yeah. Well, and I tell you, I think that for me, it was kind of neat because the way the dad was responding, you can kind of see pride in him that he's like, yes, we were saving lives. Kryptonian lives, and he was doing the right thing. And it's one of those he created the perfect weapon that anybody invades their planet, we drop this bomb and boom, all the bad guys are gone. None of our infrastructure is damaged. None of our people are caught up in collateral damage. It's the perfect weapon. Problem being, bad guys got a hand on it, and now they're using it against Kara, or using it against the people that Kara are protecting. I thought that was a great, just little twist, and a great, just kind of explanation and rationale behind why they would create this stuff.
Right. I totally agree with you.
Man, I loved it, and I loved I love Kara's reaction to all this. Again, this is one of those things where she has these moments where she goes, "Oh shucks, golly gee willikers," but then she's got these serious moments, and she's dealing with the weight of the world on her shoulder, and dealing with the fact that her father created this virus that is killing her friend and killed all those people. And I love just how it goes from moments very happy to, oh my God, what happened here? And that is again the powerful of the actress, that she really gives us some great emotional spectrum, great, just you tugs at the heartstrings, but you're also then hoorahing right along with her every so often.
I liked the moment where the sister revealed it to the mom.
Yeah.
And the mom really kind of laid it out in a cool way. I love you no matter what, and this is you. It's it was really kind of a neat moment. I liked how the mom just really, I thought, nailed how you. I don't think there's anybody who 100% knows the right way to handle everything in every situation, but I thought that one was like, I'm like, that's probably everything she needed to hear in that moment, and more. And she walked out feeling empowered instead of diminished. And I just thought that was a really well done small segment. But it had a lot to it that I thought was cool.
Small and pivotal, and just one of those great moments, in this episode. And I loved how they've handled this whole thing of her coming out, and just how every time she's played it, every big step she's had throughout this, because that can be a very difficult thing, to do in your life. And they really gave this a lot of, I've seen this a lot of times on different TV shows, and sometimes they do really good jobs with it. Sometimes they do more comedical, more traumatic. This one, they did a really just a great, just open dialogue between two people that it completely made sense. Especially, I love the line where Alex is saying how she was worried that mom wanted her to have a normal life. She's like, wait a minute, just look at us, look at our lives, look at who we are. We're not gonna be like everybody else. We're gonna be ourselves, and you're awesome the way you are. And it was just this great, just wonderful speech saying, hey, you're different, but that's great. You're different, but that's your strength. That's who you are. You're powerful. This is, and it was just that great, as you said, just that great empowering, feeling that she walks away with. This for me was just one of those wonderful, just fabulous moments. I was like, man, this is cool. And it's, again, I love this actress who plays Alex just does this great job with just relaying the emotion and just relaying what we need to know. Now, with me, one of the things that I kind of was wondering about with when John finally did slip up, or it revealed, or he had his attack, and Kara found out about the White Martian transformation, all that stuff, where he's like, no, don't tell anyone. No, we've only focused on one thing. Personally, I was like, you know what? They should tell people and get everybody working on, get everybody on the same page. I always laugh when these hero shows keep secrets from each other, because sometimes that's going to come back and bite you in the butt, and you need to just be open out there.
His I'll defend, though, because what he's saying is he's fought so hard to be this guy who he's crafted, and really made his own personality for himself that he believes in and wants people to see. And it's interesting when you see somebody who is using a power set to develop that to that persona and for people to see it. And I really enjoyed how that played out in this piece, that it really was about a justification for who you're becoming, and how, because you're becoming someone else, and that's what you're using, it totally changes the way that you plan for that. And it's just really cool. You're right about this actor, David Hayward, playing and doing such a great job of playing both versions. Because now I'm watching the fight between Supergirl and Cyborg, and Lena Luthor's there. And you see this great sequence where Lena is almost hurt, and Supergirl rushes to her aid. And that part was really cool to me, because this leads to what was a bit of a swerve for me. Because I was really disappointed when she sided with Mom, and I was thinking she was going to turn on Mom. But then it got to a certain point where I'm like, oh, I don't know that she's going to turn anymore. I loved the way that they played that, because they weren't limited in how they did it. They were really strong in how they did it. They embraced the idea of making you really believe that she had turned, and that she always wanted to be on the side of her mom, and that she would do this to be on the side of her mom. It was really something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, and it's, again, I love when you get the complexity that's a Luther. When you see just the strategery playing out here, that she was playing everybody, and I love that about her. And there still is some kind of question that can be raised very easily with Lena Luthor, because she got her mom arrested, she got everything that happened, where the mom, and she comes off as being the good guy, but is she really? Is she really? Was this whole setup to take out Mom and then to take over Cadmus? They very easily could have Lena Luthor do a heel turn after this. And I love the fact that I don't think they're going to do it. Let me just state that. But they could very easily take this character and make her the arch villain, because they just did a great job at showing her as the good guy, showing her as the person who is on Supergirl's side. They could do another swerve later on and see the whole time she was just playing the mom. She was playing all of them. She is a Luthor.
What was interesting was Supergirl's interaction with Lena Luthor and how defensive she was.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's making you feel that way. Because here's the thing. Lena choosing to do the right thing has nothing to do with that interaction with Supergirl at all. There's some animosity there. And it does have to do with the fact that she clearly loved her brother Lex. And I like that twist of, hey, I'm trying to be a good guy, or a good person. I'm not Lex, but I loved Lex. And I'm not going to have you slandering Lex. Who do you think you are? Your cousin did this same thing. That part was really cool because I think it's very realistic.
Well, it is a thing where you think about you have this super powerful, alien on the planet who says they're here to help. Are they completely? Can you 100% trust them? Can she 100% trust Supergirl? Or should she prepare for a chance in a time where Supergirl comes after her? Should she have some type of defenses up? And is it wrong to have those type of defenses? It's the argument like with the kryptonite being, how the department had all that kryptonite and Superman wouldn't interact with them because they had all that kryptonite. When Batman has a kryptonite in his utility belt that he keeps on him just in case Superman turns. There is preparation for something that may never occur, a bad thing. And again, it's part of that whole questioning on the Luthors. Are they being evil? Are they doing the right thing, but they're doing it in a wrong way? Who are they? Are they good or evil? And I love when you have a villain, especially if their last name is Luthor, where you have those questions getting raised. It fits just so perfectly.
Maggie Sawyer and Alex. It's a relationship. We've alluded to the fact of Alex coming out, but we haven't really talked about, I think, one of the better handled relationships on these shows. They've journeyed along this way together, where at first it was like readily apparent what they were doing, but I liked the twists and turns. And I liked how it led to, through Maggie's own opportunity at realizing her own mortality, kind of them coming together in a way that it matters more to me because of the fact that wasn't the way it was going. And we saw that they do really genuinely care about each other, even though it isn't going to that level with them, that it seems natural and organic for that to be a thing with the two of them. I really like that relationship.
Well, and it wasn't just forced and thrown at us. You saw the growth and development of it, and I love the fact that initially Maggie was saying, "Hey, you're coming out just because of me. You got to do it for yourself. This has to be who you are, not a way to for us to be together." And I thought that for me was a really cool twist and a really cool way to how they did it, but also just Alex's reaction to it, how hurt she was initially over that. But it's something that had to happen in their life for their relationship to go forward. It was a really cool natural progression moment.
Yeah, and I like the term natural progression, because you want to feel like these journeys are happening in real time because you're connecting with them. I'm taking a look at the Mon-El and Supergirl sequence where Mon-El's dying, and the two of them are chatting, and she's venting and unloading, and just really looking at him as somebody who maybe can understand her, and he's patient, and then it leads to the kiss, and the kiss that no one remembers,
well,
or selective perception. Yeah. That was something that I really enjoyed how that played out, because it, again, felt very real world to couples, because you cross that line, which is always a risk, And then, a lot of times it's a natural reaction to go, let me pull back a little bit on this one. And I thought it was great.
Well, I think he was suspecting he would get the
Rejection.
"I think of you as a brother" kind of speech, so he threw up a quick block there to say, "Hey, what kiss? What happened? What are you talking about?" And she continued. And again, in a way, he kind of read her correctly, because she then went to the whole, "Oh, you were snot all over," and she didn't bring up the kiss. So it's one of those things where I don't know where this relationship is going to go between these two, what's going to actually happen. And I like the play here. I like how they're doing the slow play, and it's especially going to interesting to see if these two get together, if these two can make it work, because we've seen her. She doesn't have the best track record with people who like her. She maintains friendships with them, but they don't get beyond that. They don't get out of the friend zone. They're locked in the friend zone, and be kind of curious to see if Mon-El can work his way out of it. The mother-daughter relationship, they've done a couple between these two, and every time I absolutely love it. And it's been this great progression within this episode. The first time the daughter's throwing out accusations, second time mother's here now, and she's like, "No, I'm with you. All you had to do was ask." And I loved these moments, because again, I was cheering because I was like, yes, we got a great villain for Supergirl to fight, and I was hoorahing just because I'm thinking all the possibilities of the Luthor Supergirl fight. And it was funny, initially, if you had said on paper they were going to have a female version of Lex for her to fight, I'd be like, but the way they played this out, the way they let us know, and the way everything just unfolded, I was cheering. To the point where the swerve happened, I was like, oh, man. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, maybe we can have a double swerve. I really do want to see a Luthor versus Supergirl.
The swerve was way cool because I felt like I should have seen it coming. I think what did the swerve in for me, I kept wanting to see the swerve. But then when she turned the key, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's really in. I mean, and she's doing it right in front of the team. She's the one that's firing off the missiles. And to see that the whole thing was just a big deception, I thought was awesome.
Well, not only was it a deception, it was a way to take out the virus.
Right.
That, for me, was a great little added bonus, because when she turns it and the bomb goes off and the thing, and everyone's like, she's like, "You should be dying. Why aren't you dying?" Again, I cheered, because... it was a great swerve. Should have seen it coming. Didn't. I was so locked in the fact of a Luthor versus Supergirl battle, but the fact that she not only, got her mom arrested, she got the modified the isotope so it would render the virus completely useless. It was an absolute 1-2 beautiful combo punch. And again, I want to see what happens now between Lena and Supergirl. When Supergirl does she go up and say, "Hey, I was wrong. You helped out. You actually took down your mother. Thank you." Or do we have that moment off screen? Is it going to be on screen? That's the kind of stuff that I do want to see, and I think that'd be kind of neat.
There's so much more they can do, because obviously that whole thing isn't over. There's no way they're dropping Cadmus that quickly. That part was something that I really, really enjoyed, was getting to see the development of the relationship with the mother and daughter. We've seen a lot of familial relationships like that with Supergirl's mom and the aunt, yes. Some of that through the hologram, some of it through the aunt being here. This show has done a great job of developing that outside piece to, again, flesh out that reality. Oh, okay, they got parents like we do, and they're not necessarily all perfect. And that part is, I think, very interesting to enjoy in something like this.
Yeah. And one of the things I do like, the fact that, again, it's a Luthor, so they're going to plan for this, but they had a plan set up for when Supergirl caught the rocket. They just had a little detonator switch right there on there, so Supergirl catches it, gotcha, boom, and blows it up. Well, it was awesome. Again, I love when you see these moments and you skip this time where it is, you need to have a villain that has to have that intelligence, has to have that, again, I'm going to say it, the strategery that you need to have to survive in this universe. And again, Luthors have that. And the fact that we're seeing that in the mom, and we're maybe going to see a double swerve from the daughter, not sure, but I'm hoping we do because I think it would be awesome. But you're still getting that same vibe. It's this Luther doesn't have the name Lex to him, but guess what? They're just as dangerous, just as cool. And that's something that you need to have. You have to have these great villains for heroes like her to fight. It's got to have something there. It's not just a physical power. If you don't have the physical power to match her, you better have the mental strength.
Are there characters from the Supergirl mythos, Jim, that you would like to see on this show that we haven't seen yet? Because they've covered a lot of ground in a very short period of time. I do want repeat characters. I like actually being surprised by characters that they choose to bring into this world.
Yeah, I think I like the surprise factor, to be honest with you. And it's one of the things that why I've been avoiding the spoilers, for the TV shows, because I like having those moments where, oh my God, like, Mon-El, I didn't know Mon-El was coming. When they first did Martian Manhunter, I didn't know it was going to be him. I like these surprises. I like this, these moments. And one of the other things, the moment that I really thought was cool was when the virus was first coming down. And John just sits there and goes to his kind of his humanist form, and he just it's sitting there and just accepts death. He's like, I'm coming home. I'm coming. Basically telling his daughter, his wife, here I come. I'm coming back now. It's time. And I love just that acceptance of that moment of acceptance. That was a cool, just, you look death in the eye and say, let's dance. That for me, again, we talk about hero moments. Courage in the face of death. That's another true hero moment.
I like when we got to see the Dominator ship, and even Martian Manhunter, John Jones, seeing him back like in his gear and everything like that. This show's great with visuals. The Dominator ship I thought was outstanding in how it was done. It looked like this real deep space vessel that was jumping right out of the page of the comic books. The Dominators themselves, I thought looked phenomenal in those outfits. I thought that was. You can't get much better than that when you nail aliens like that just right. Did you ever read Invasion, the actual story Invasion in comics?
No, I did not. Now the aliens who are looking for Mon-El, those are Dominators?
No. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was talking about the Dominator ship and the Dominators themselves. You're right. We had another set of aliens as well, also with great ships, and I think that part, for me, being a sci-fi fan. And I know you are too. When they get ships right, I mean, that's something where you look at those and go, I want to fly that, or I want to be in that. That's the cool part about that. You want to be a part of those journeys when they nail those crafts just right. They start to become a little bit more iconic, a little bit more recognizable. They have a cool style with these that is really working for me because they look like something cool.
Yeah, and it's again like how we talked about with the Superman's that new costume when he first came back out with the Kryptonian battle armor. And I kept saying I want to have it something where it looks like alien. If he's an alien, I want him to wear something that looks alien. Same thing goes with the ships. If it's an alien spacecraft, I want it to look like an alien spacecraft. Now, there's going to be some basic universal principle designs, that every ship's going to have, and that's just basic, the basic. Physics is going to have it, and you're going to have it, so you go with it. So you can have some similarities, but I do like the fact when an alien ship looks like an alien ship, it's not going to be a Earth craft. There's going to be something else out there, and it's again, I'm kind of echoing a lot of stuff you said. I'm really digging their usage of aliens, alien tech, and just letting you know, okay, this is something a little bit out there.
You want to talk a little bit about the Flash?
Oh, God, I'd love to talk about The Flash.
So, Jim, The Flash. The Flash is a very interesting episode in this one because you and I both watch The Flash the same way. We're watching it off of iTunes. We wait for the episode to be released, and it actually just comes out the next day. And then you watch it, and you don't have the commercials or anything like that, so it's a lot of fun. But I saw this one, and I was immediately like, did I miss an episode? Did I not watch something in this whole sequence of Invasion? Because I knew Supergirl wrapped up with her going through the corridor and coming to this Earth. So now we saw Heat Vision being blasted and what looked like the team saving Barry and Ollie. So I'm like, what did I just miss in the sequence? It was interesting how that was all put together. Go ahead.
And I'm so glad I wasn't the only one who said, what the heck? What did I miss? I actually stopped it.
Mm-hmm.
and exited and then rechecked the dates because I actually didn't see any of these things even the next day. I had a marathon of Invasion, so I had all the Invasion episodes done. And so I'm thinking in my head, oh crud, I grabbed the wrong one. I didn't want any spoilers. So I jump back and I'm looking at the release dates going, wait, no, it goes Supergirl, Flash. No, what the heck? So then I went back and started, and then you get that Flash 10 hours earlier, and I'm like, oh, Jim, you're an idiot. Okay, just keep watching. Be patient.
The Wally West Kid Flash storyline with Alchemy is something I'm really digging. Because in this world, I could see people being very upset and worried about people getting powers, especially with Alchemy. It doesn't end well. So they're trying to protect him, but this is his dream come true. And I get it, because this would be us, right? We got superpowers now. It's like, no, I want to be trained. I want to go out there. I want to have fun. I like the sense of wonder of this. And he keeps getting disappointed because they keep letting him down, saying, no, we kind of need more tests. We need to get going. There's a real sense of betrayal here in what's going on. And Cisco is the one who's feeling the most guilt, because he's currently really ticked at Barry. And you can't argue with his reasoning why. His brother's dead because of him.
You know what? Here's the thing with that. And I'll tell you, initially, I wanted to yell at Cisco and say, get over it. But then I started really thinking of it. And I started trying to put it in real world phraseologies and just mindset. And I started thinking about it. What if you were driving a car too fast and in the process you killed my brother Bill? That's the mindset that I came through this. And I could see myself putting myself in Cisco's, shoes at that point in time, where I could understand why he'd be so angry. Because if you're driving and you're driving too fast and you lost control and you didn't mean to kill my brother, you didn't mean to kill Bill, but it happened. And, I could see where his anger is coming from. I can see where he would have these resentments and all that, and just everything that was playing out. It actually was weird because once I had that real world analogy in my head, I was able to, one, better understand him, but appreciate the story. And then I really loved how by the end of Invasion, this all got wrapped up and this got kind of explained, and they were able to move on and move forward. And you could see these two were going to be okay. Their friendship was going to be okay. They just needed to work through it.
Well, and we'll talk about that as we go further along in the Invasion storyline to why they actually wound up okay. Because there comes a common ground that's really interesting. What do you like? What do you think about the new version of our time traveling? Wells. What do you think about Wells? We've seen different versions and variations of him. Like we saw the first one, obviously from the first season. Second season, we got to see the one from Earth 2 over here. Now we've got this one. Do you think he's on the up and up?
I think we've finally seen all of his hidden stories, his hidden, the hidden parts of him. That he's not really a scientist, he's not really a genius, but he is a thinker, and he is that thought process kind of guy, and he is going to be a part of the team. Plus, he's a writer, so he's there to kind of get research for a novel in his universe. So I don't think we have any more secrets that he's going to tell. I think this was the last of the big secrets about him not being completely a scientist or this genius or anything. But again, as he says, everybody brings a different thing to this table, and you have to have those initial idea guys, those initial guys who can help guide the thought process. And I like that that's kind of who he is. And initially I was a little bit annoyed with the guy, his personality, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not that bad at him. I think this guy can work here. And he's a character that I want to see some growth and I want to see some maturity from him. And I liked how they addressed the fact that his face, he can't go out with his Dr. Wells face, but they didn't want to bring in another actor. So we got the same actor. He's got the little tech from his Earth that allows him to have a different facial appearance, but everybody there sees his real face. So I like that. That was kind of the kind of quantum leap thing they did. They did in Quantum Leap where Sam was jumping from body to body, and his face, but everybody else saw the other person that he jumped into. I thought that was kind of a explanation. I liked that. It was one of those things where he has this potential to be a really solid support character. He's a good character now, but he has a chance to be a solid, really good, support character like, Cisco and Snow are.
I like how it's playing out in the storyline. I'm not sure he's 100% of the up and up. I think there's another reveal yet to come about him. But I'm enjoying it greatly, and I agree with everything you're saying about him being an interesting supporting cast member, whatever route they go with him. I see that coming. I want to talk about the Dominator's first appearance in this episode when they came out of that pod. It was genuinely creepy. And I really liked that they looked like the comic book Dominators, but they found a way to do the costumes in a way where they felt like very real, and it was scary. And I like that. I mean, that's, when you're having an alien invasion with these type of, an alien race called the Dominators, you want to feel like this is a threat, a real threat that would involve bringing somebody like Supergirl to the planet. So I like that this naturally led to that piece. The aliens pieces were going on. I like that Cisco starts to perk up about it. We'll later see Felicity start to perk up about it. It's a geeky thing. And it's real cool.
All the geeks were like, yes!
Yes, and I love that kind of stuff because we all, we grew up with Star Trek and Star Wars and, various different television shows that did this. And it's great to see these things play out onto this where it's our people that are the ones that are in the lead. And you're kind of like, yeah, this guy's been hanging out of the con with Cisco Rocks.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, I love of course, you always have the government coming in, the government conspiracy, the cover-ups, and just the men in black that they kind of have going with the government agencies that's dealing with the alien menace. I do love the fact they had the MIB outfit on. And granted, they weren't saying they were MIB, but it still was there. And I was like, yeah! I absolutely love that. And again, you gotta, the usage of the government, and just as the, feeding all the different conspiracy theories and just everything they've done with that, they've done a great job on all of these different shows.
How cool is it that Diggle's back on Arrow?
Yeah.
I absolutely love John Diggle. And I love him with Ollie and how that whole thing plays out, especially when they interact with Barry.
Yeah.
And the new vigilante. The fact they brought him onto the show. They've really just done a great job of bringing some very cool characters onto this program. This leads to, and this is a great part about this being a 4-part crossover, or really 3. They have a chance to flesh out some ideas here because, they're going on the history of obviously these two right now. But then they're also going to go on what's been happening to each other and how those stories start to converge and they have a chance to react to those things. The friendship between Barry and Ollie is one of my favorite things about these shows. I really think that that's been, because they're such opposites, but the respect is huge.
Well, it's the Superman-Batman relationship. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with that same type of, the different types of they both are heroes. They both have, they're, willing to sacrifice for the greater good, but, it's the light and the dark, working together. It's that, and you get those moments between the interaction between these two that, I could very easily see being a Superman or Batman. I thought that was something I really liked about this. And I loved whenever Barry picks people up with the super speed, it messes with them to the point where Diggle's over the balcony, letting go. And you even see Ollie just having to do the deep breaths and, just recover from it.
The Star Labs hangar looking like the Hall of Justice was absolutely sweet.
Oh, come on. That was a geek moment big time. And especially love the comments of, what is this place? Oh, yeah. We should really do something with it. Yes! Justice League! Justice League! I was cheering for that.
I love that they called the warning system on the ship the trouble alert.
Yeah, yep.
Just really great winks and nods without going too far with it. It was just enough that it was really neat. And we get to see the whole team brought back together. Again, we get to see here the relationship between Cisco and Barry and how strained it is. I'm not going to let my issues with you get in the way of that. We're on a mission. That piece was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And this sets up the whole few tries that we end up seeing on the Supergirl. I love that this is all coming back cyclically together, and we see them finally pop out in the way that they did at the end of Supergirl, which was neat.
And again, it was an easy, this the continuity of they're wearing the exact same outfits. So they filmed all these things together. They have the same type of look and just the layout. And it was just, I absolutely really, this is one of those things like, this is cool. I'm loving how they're bringing everything together here, man.
Well, that's the same scene.
Yeah.
You said they have the same outfits.
Yeah, and I know, but it's, but on this one you get a little bit different where they land initially, and it's you kind of get you get a little bit more from Cisco and Barry's perspective.
I thought it was the exact. I have to go back and watch it again. I thought it was the exact same scene that they just wound up using. I'll have to go back and watch it again. It's regardless. I really liked. I'm with you. Actually, we complete agreement. The fact that it was cyclical and it all came back together and put it in a time frame of the show was cool. I love that Thea's there because it's aliens.
It's like, oh, I'm in. Yeah. And again, Felicity's like, oh, ain't that sweet? No, it's not. What are you idiots doing? I love how she immediately jumped in on that, saying this is not the right idea, guys. But again, that does lead to the full team. That leads to Barry saying, no, we got to do this. We need to pull everybody together. And again, I love, calling for backup. I love when heroes pull in, and when they recognize, okay, we need more people in here. The only thing I wondered, and part of me wished they had done, is if they had pulled Martian Manhunter in as well. And not just brought over Supergirl, but brought over John as well.
Does Barry know him? I don't remember.
But Supergirl does. She could have she could have said, you know what? Maybe you want a second alien as well.
Yeah, I would. I actually love it. I just didn't know that. I didn't think Barry knew, but you're right. Supergirl could have been the one to suggest it, which is really cool. I was more thinking back to the episode. I'm like, did they ever actually meet? I don't think they did.
They never. No, they never actually met. I don't think.
But that part was really cool. The whole Dominators thing, when we start seeing them with their weapon and beginning their plan, I like that there's a mystery to what they're actually doing that we're seeing gradually unfold. I love it. It's a great way for us to see in their storyline, their alien tech. They're clearly far more advanced than us, and just trying to see what exactly they're trying to do as they go to take over the planet. And finding out later what was really driving this, I think, was something that was really interesting. The pacing of this was really good because you had that really awesome sequence of all the heroes coming together, and then you saw Felicity going, best team up ever. And it felt like that. There was a sense of hope to this. It's funny, when you talk about, I watched recently the Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition again, and I do that with my favorite movies and shows and all that, and I watched it through again. I will say one thing that I am seeing more and more that's a valid criticism. I really like the movie. I haven't changed my viewpoint on it at all, but when you watch this, the sense of, this show gets, all of the shows get to some dark places. What Barry did with the time travel and the fact that the relationships that it's really hurt in his life, the people that have died because of his decisions, because of the fact that you go back again, you can make things worse. The ripple effect that goes through there. I get it. And I can actually agree with the whole thing as you end up seeing it in this sequence. It changed its future even. I get all of that. And it can go to those dark places, but there's that sense of hope and wonder that is always present that I think, here's what, I'm looking back at Batman v Superman, and I wish they had done a few more movies before they went that route, where you got a chance to see some of that sense of hope and wonder on the screen before you went to the movie with a little bit of darker tone. I still love the movie, but I think my enjoyment of it comes from the fact that I've got so much comic history that fills in a lot of those blanks that I would love to have seen it, especially when you see this. This played out so well in the heroes coming together, opportunities for the heroes to be against each other. They did so much with this that is a traditional tenet of comic books, but also what they do in film because of the long form. And that long form, really, it's 3 episodes of this that they ended up pulling off this storyline. That long form isn't really all that much longer than a traditional movie in the way that it all plays out. There's something to be learned from how these TV shows pace that film can learn from, and also the positive spirit of these that I think is inherently DC, and every bit is kick butt. Because this is, I called you on the phone, and I'll say it right now, this is one of the better things I've ever seen. These 4 episodes together, I've already watched them 3 times now. just because I haven't, I'm behind on the shows now because I watched this a couple times again. Because I thought the team up between these heroes was really so good. They did such a nice job of giving everybody screen time together and reactions to each other that were very genuine. And I loved how it played again, organically into the storylines that were going on in the individual shows, where you got to see another lens into their specific television show continuities because these other characters are outside of it and they're reacting to it. Everything just played together so brilliantly on this. This is one of my favorite things I've ever. This in many ways is my favorite comic book movie, just because it all came together so well.
Yeah, it does have that movie quality. It does have that epic story, feel to it, and that was the thing it really needed for me to have. And it 100% completely agree with you. This has been probably the best superhero television watching experience that I've had. Just because of this. This was a great play out where each of the shows still had their strengths, still had their core playing, but it was the interlocking story. And they in the Flash here, we have these great Barry moments, we have these great Oliver Queen moments, we have these moments of the rest of the Flash team, the Legends, we have Team Arrow. All these different pieces are coming together in a great way where it's this great interaction, and of course Supergirl's throughout all of this is kind of that outsider looking in and learning the people and learning who the players are, and just her first initial dealings with everybody. So you had it was just an epic event story feel to it. And I think that was the greatest thing that they did with Invasion, is how they gave us, they definitely, for me, easily exceeded the hype that they pumped out for this thing.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's great because I was excited for the anticipation of it. And I think you're saying it really well. This one really did well with the hype, and it paid off everything. There were so many moments that I was hooping and hollering watching this, just because of dialogue and action and everything that was going on. Even I'm looking again at the Hall of Justice. And the interactions when, like, Supergirl's going through the name of every single character and getting to know them. And we see Cisco will later on do something very similar with all that. Getting to know people, but reacting to them in the same way is really cool. Heatwave.
Yeah, come on. The Supergirl Heatwave, or the Skirt,
yes.
as he referred to her as, were absolutely wonderful interactions. But I love the fact that Iris didn't know Ollie was the Arrow. It's like, he's the Green Arrow? I love that moment that, when she realizes, she's like, oh, he just got hotter. And you just see Barry go, dang it. Come on, man. I love that interaction.
Now,
the nomination for the team leader, that, again, was a great scene because it really showed Cisco, his feelings where he's like, I trust Ollie. Team Flash trusts Team Ollie.
What was great about Ollie on this one is, even though he deferred to Barry and let Barry be in charge, because it's funny with Ollie, for how brash that he is, he's a great hero.
Yeah.
And he's a great friend. And his loyalty is really interesting. He's got a good heart. That harkens to the comics. Stephen Amell just plays a great Oliver Queen. And when I look back at the shows, I don't know anymore that I have a favorite. I really don't. I think when I paint myself into a corner when I keep trying to choose. I think when you see this team up, it's what I like about it is how different they are. And I think they've done such a great job at crafting them that when you see them come together, these shows are so much greater as a part of a shared universe that it's just fantastic. Ollie jumping in every so often and giving advice and telling people, he can't help himself because he's Ollie.
That, he's giving the orders, and I loved, Canary. She's like, are we just supposed to ignore that he's saying it too?
And that part was really awesome. The fact that, he went ahead and just when it was doing that. I love, speaking of Canary, Sarah Lance is just an amazing character.
Yes.
It's really hard, I think, when you have this large of an ensemble cast in an episode to give everybody screen time and make them all work. They did it in this. They somehow found a way. There's nobody that I felt didn't get some screen time in the way that they handled these episodes. That is incredibly hard to do because they were all affected in some way by everything that was going on around them. There was not a player that got lost in the shuffle, except maybe Wells. And even that, you could make an argument was...
He still had pivotal moments in
Yes.
this. Because, especially like with his dealings with Wally. His interactions, all the stuff that he did with Wally throughout this episode, it still gave him, he had plenty of screen time. Now, when it came to the Arrow shows and Legends, he wasn't as high of appearance, but when it came time for the Flash episode, he was there and he was an active participant. I think again, I'm agreeing with you in that all these characters, they did a great job, spreading the wealth and giving all these characters their screen time and making the appropriate interactions. Like, I loved all of the Cisco and Felicity interactions because these two characters should interact. Not just because they're the two tech people, but because they're the two tech people that have that sort of, personal connection. They have that same style to them. That, these two can work together. They can, it makes sense for them to be together. Just like it made sense for Caitlin and Dr. Stein to be together. Those two characters, two different shows, they fit together. I thought that was a great when they did these team ups of the two different shows working together.
Yeah, that was something that was pretty critical to me, was the team up of each character and in some way making us, again, see a different layer to them because of it. Cisco venting to Felicity over what was happening there, and her having been through so many dark things with Ollie and the crew, it was interesting to see her being kind of that shoulder to cry on.
Yeah. Well, it's one, it's her personality, but two, it does, you kind of understand. I loved how she was, and she initially gave the Cisco the chance to vent, and then later on, when they're on the Wave Rider, in the Legends episode, she's again going back to it, and it's that whole thing where she gave him an initial chance, and then she's going to keep going, and because she's trying to help her friend, get through the grief and get through the anger and whatnot. So I liked, how, again, multiple times these two were together. These two are working this out.
Give me 1 second, buddy.
Okay.
So Barry and Ollie are finally brought into the loop by Stein and, the Firestorm team, as they're talking about the fact that they discovered this recording. And in the recording, Barry refers to events that are upcoming, but he also refers to the fact that he's been compromised and can't be trusted. The secret is starting to be revealed. And it's interesting how this is shadowing the conversation that Cisco was happening with Felicity. And it leads to a pivotal event. I didn't realize this was going to be such a big part of this, and I really loved how they handled it.
Yeah, and it was funny because I like the fact that they threw out the initial argument of, we need to tell everybody, but Ollie's the one who says no. One sci-fi thing at a time, one big thing at a time. And later, Ollie, does kind of reveal how this whole situation is kind of making him uncomfortable. And when he gets uncomfortable, he pulls back. So that explains why Ollie's saying, no, let's pull back. Let's keep everyone in the dark. But, as you're watching this going, no, guys, this is going to bite you in the butt later on. But it does, but it kind of doesn't. And I love how that eventually plays out with, right there, these four decide not to tell everybody. And that the team's going to find out. And there's going to be problems when they do. And I love how, as I'm watching this, I know this is going to happen. But even when it does happen, I'm not like, oh, that's nice, I saw it coming. I was still like, yeah, all right. I still was loving how this played out in the story.
It's interesting how he went back to save his parents, or his mom in particular. You see Ollie's reaction to it. I love how this plays out. That this is just Barry kind of revealing everything. It's his darkest moment. He's going down lower and lower. And Ollie's just trying to process the whole thing. These two guys have time traveled, so they understand what this all means. And, these are the guys that are traveling around right now fixing anomalies.
Yeah.
Diggle, I loved that they took it to the level where Diggle doesn't have a daughter, has a son now. I love how all that just changed. The bit with Stein was great, because at first I thought, did Barry do that? No, it was Stein.
Yeah, I knew Stein did that. I knew that wasn't a Flashpoint thing because, and it was, the funny thing is, with the whole Diggle getting a son now instead of having Sarah, when the Legends team was back, well, they were doing part of that time jump where they were in the Star City that was all messed up. That was John Jr. fighting under the guise of Connor Hawk. Right. You know, he was being the Arrow. And I loved how the fact that that's John Jr. in that sequencing, and now we're seeing the birth of John Jr.
That's all coming to a head. And that part's really cool. The bit with Stein and the daughter and everything was pretty staggering. Because, you know, imagine finding out that you have a kid.
Yeah.
And that you never knew.
Well, and again, it's he's dedicated his life to clearing these time and aberration. You know what I mean? The time problems. And he ends up creating one just because he gives himself a motivational speech, his interaction with a younger version. I loved how he's got to deal with that, you know, the ramifications of that. And I love how he actually does deal with that.
Yeah, that part is really cool how he does deal with it. And we start to see these things come full circle. And that's one of the great things when you can give something time like they do with this. You get to see those things get fleshed out. You get to see those stories play out. You get to see some benefit to all of this with all of these characters in a way that adds to that reality you're talking about that I think is great. I love that, like, when you watch this through the second time, there's a lot of characters that you're like, oh, he was on the scene? You know, and I love that there was a history.
MIB.
Yeah, exactly. And how in present day, his actions, along with the metahumans, have caused this thing with the Dominators that I think is really interesting.
You know who I've loved throughout this series, and especially these past couple stuff, has been Joe West.
Oh, Joe West is awesome.
I've always loved him throughout the series, but especially when Wally, everything that's happening to Wally, I love how they're playing him. Even like in the beginning of this episode where they're talking about how we got to keep Wally in check, and Joe's just like, how? And you see him just kind of like pointing out to this massive super speed that Wally has, and he's just like, we can't, you know? What are we going to do? And I love, that was such a natural human reaction. I love that. And just the actor himself is absolutely wonderful. But these are some of the stuff that was just some great interaction, just great moments.
Yeah, he's been. You talk about the sense of family that a show has, and he's been a great example of what it means to develop a sense of family on a program. Because he's the piece where, because he's best friends with Barry's dad, he becomes the adoptive father and really tries to raise him. It's Jesse L. Martin is the actor who's playing Joe West, and he's doing such a great job. We always talk about casting, and I would say the Flash casting could not possibly be better in how they're handling it.
Oh God, yeah.
Speaking of both West children having the debate over what happened in Flashpoint to Wally, and how they were a brother sister crime fighting duo over there, but here he can get nobody who has any faith in him. And I get the point, when he's looking at that. He's like, the tests don't add up. What I'm feeling doesn't add up. Why is nobody helping me? I know I can do this. I love the idea, man.
Yeah. Well, that's what he is. That's who he is. And again, it was a kind of a cool interaction with him and Wally, where Wally's like, at least like, hey, train me. He's like, no, but that seed was planted, and you knew by the end of this episode he was going to say, "Okay, I'll train you," and we do get the payout. Again, even though we knew it was coming, it still was kind of cool. I still enjoyed it, and I'm chuckling at the 52 references throughout this episode, because the license plate of the van is star 52. His house number is 5203. And this is season 3 of The Flash. I was like, oh man, come on, that's kind of cool. They're throwing a bunch of 52 references out throughout this thing.
I think that part is something that they've done a great job with on the show in general, is sprinkling, DC in general throughout it. I'm curious to see if they start to do anything with the modern Rebirth comics, and have them somehow referenced in some way in the shows. I like that they do it subtly, And everything you're referencing, I'm just nodding as you're saying that, because it's subtle. It's stuff that you notice as a fan if you're paying a little extra attention to the background. They don't make it so in your face to the point where it would derail any of the programming. And I like that. I like that there seems to be a priority to really tight storytelling in this. I'm watching the bit where Stein's going to the house and actually sees his daughter for the first time. He has memories of her because of flashes, but in his mind, he also knows that she technically should not exist.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because as I'm watching this, when they first started showing the flashes of the images, I wasn't really thinking daughter until until like this episode when she finally revealed. I was thinking to myself, does he have a daughter now? And it was one of those things where I was kind of toying with it, and then she goes, "I love you, Dad." I'm like, yes, again, cheered. The fact that, because I knew that wasn't a flashpoint. I knew that was him somehow. He had changed it, and that's why he was getting the flashes and why he was seeing those kind of images in his head. That for me was a really cool just realization point.
They got the pool in front of the Hall of Justice. They really did a good job with that. I just saw that nighttime scene where it was all lit up, and I'm like, man, it's just really cool. I think one of the things I liked about the Stein piece, too, not to drop that piece, was the fact that when you take a look at the Stein sequence, there's really not a reason for him to go back and kill her, because he's still married to his wife. So It really is their daughter. So it's a weird decision to go back in time. And when I say kill her, I mean, make the choice for her not to
erase
exist.
her. Yeah.
Why would you do it? And it's an interesting conundrum that Caitlin brings to his attention. He's scared. He's got fear because of all the change that's happened. I really love how Caitlin brings to light, you are referencing her like she's an object. She's not. She's a person. She's your child. And Caitlin really shined on this particular episode. She's actually been shining all season, obviously, with the Killer Frost stuff. But this one in particular, I really enjoyed how she handled it. And that character is incredibly well written. She's the one I root for. I don't want her to become Killer Frost because I like her so much as a character. I do like the duality that's going on with her, though.
Yeah, but the thing you got to remember also, back in that other Earth where there was the Killer Frost, Barry was able to reason with her. Barry was able to pull into and get Caitlin back. So they're still kind of keeping with that, where there is that duality and there is that power that can corrupt her. But Caitlin Snow is strong enough of a person that she can fight through it. So I'm happy that how they've been playing that off. And again, throughout this invasion storyline, she's been a great, strong supporting character throughout this, in not just the Flash episodes, but we're going to see her later on in the other titles as well. I'm glad that, as I said, they're giving these characters time in other shows.
The reveal that finally happens where Cisco finds, the audio, and he has to think about that and go, listen, you're going to tell them, right? So you're about to lead them into an alien war. Even after Flashpoint, after everything that's happened, all the lives you change, you are not going to tell them. You think you should not tell them. This is the part where Barry was right.
Yeah.
Because for the greater good of keeping the team together right now, you shouldn't tell them. And I'm usually not that guy. I'm usually a big believer, especially as I've gotten older, that you're better off getting it out there, hashing it out, talking it out, even when it's tough, because it'll make you stronger to get through that sequence together. I would argue that in the middle of an alien battle, though, I would agree with Oliver Queen. This may not be the time.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those. It's funny because if they had gone with them, then they would have been compromised by the trap. So it was a great story usage for me in that I see why Flash wasn't with them when they went to save the president, why Arrow wasn't with them when he went to save the president. I thought that was that was, kind of a neat thing they did. Now, the one thing I was kind of wishing in that fight sequence, because we're going to eventually get Wally kind of throwing in, part of me wishes Caitlin would have taken off the bracelets and we would have had a little bit of Killer Frost action, Killer Frost versus Firestorm action. I think that would have been kind of another cool thing. Or Vibe could have vibed up with his bracelets and he could have been shooting some blasts as well.
Sarah chastising him, I thought, was really great in this sequence, where they're talking about time traveling and everything that was going on, and our time travelers are the ones that are lecturing the most.
Yeah.
That part was, I thought, they're sitting there saying, listen, especially Sarah, who wants to go back in time and kill Dark, but she's like, I could bring my sister back like so many times, but I know about the ripple effect of all this and what could happen. It's an interesting moral debate. What would you do if you could have the powers? And that moral debate is something to me, I think, that I really like how smart these shows are. They're not afraid to tackle these issues. That part is something that I'm finding very interesting.
Oh, yeah. And again, with Sarah and just everything she's talking about, she was the right person to chastise Barry. And I loved, again, I'm echoing everything you said, where that was the perfect time for the Legends to step up and saying, hey, this is what we do. We stop these things, and you just went ahead and did it. What the heck were you thinking? And it was one of those really cool moments where initially I'm yelling at the screen saying, dudes, work together. But then when the story plays out, you're like, oh, okay, that was cool. I like that. That was good, especially because that moment kind of gave them that was the beginning of the peace between Barry and Cisco. That was the moment of peace, beginning of the bits between John and Flash, and everything that they're dealing with. Just this was the opening salvo for those moments, for that reconciliation, and for that work coming together as a team. So you needed that really nastiness to get through to the good stuff.
Yeah, and it's a thing that feels real too. That part is, I think the reality is when, in real life, how many times have we made mistakes, right?
Yeah.
I've known each other a long time. There's few people I think of as highly as I think of you, but you're human. You've made mistakes over the years. I've made mistakes over the years. You do it, and that's part of reality. It's part of looking at the good that a person brings to the table, their core qualities, what you respect and admire about them, and being there for them, helping them, guiding them through. That happens with Barry and Barry and Ollie in this so much. And then later on, it does expand elsewhere. But I really liked the handling of Ollie in those sequences. And he's kind of the Batman of this team. If you're looking at it as a Justice League, where he's their strategist. And I really liked how that dynamic played out, where I felt like he was taking that role. It made sense because he's Barry, because he's Ollie. And it's great to see when he's Ollie interacting with Barry in circumstances that are outside of that, because it's just really neat. Being that friend, being that true friend that these two have been through. Because at this point, this is their Brave and the Bold. And I love it.
Yeah. Now, the Rescue of the President, that opening sequence with the team dynamic, especially with Heatwave.
Skirt.
Skirt. I'm not calling you Supergirl. Well, you can call me Kara. No, I'm not doing that. Well, what are you going to call it if you need my help? I'll call you Skirt. But later on, when they need help, he says Supergirl. I loved that. The fact that, especially the way the character is, the way he's interacting, finds out about the X-ray vision. First thing he brings up is, so you can see through, you can see what we got underneath the clothes, huh? And then, of course, Sarah's like, just forget it. Forgive him. It was a great, a funny moment right before, it hit the fan. And I love that. And that's something that, again, it keeps this was a great interaction between two characters who weren't on the Flash TV show, made perfect sense, absolutely fit the story, and added to it.
Heatwave is great. I like that he went from being a rogue on the Flash.
Yeah.
To then becoming one of my favorite members of the Legends. He just adds so much to the team. He's like their Wolverine, for just the lack of a different archetype. And Wolverine was always that character that was very rough, but you knew that he had a code and he would be there for the team. And Heatwave's become that guy. It's really an evolution of a character, and he's one of the ones on the show that if I wanted to protect somebody, it would be Heatwave. He adds something to every episode.
You cannot get rid of Heatwave. I was worried after Snark died, what was going to happen to him, and I'm so glad they kept him on. I'm so glad the way they've done with the character that he is one of the ones you cannot get rid of.
No, that part's cool. I'm looking at the sequence right now with Barry and Ollie, where Barry's showing him the magazine article, and they have that poignant talk where Ollie, really is sitting there and just at this moment, if I could go back in time and I could save my parents and that whole sequence, it's like you got to give yourself a break because anyone who really cared about somebody would go and do that. You can't help the fact that that happened. I like the whole maybe, maybe not. Barry, you made a choice. You wanted to see your parents alive again. Does anyone honestly know that if they were in their shoes, that in your shoes, they wouldn't do the same thing? He's like, I would do it.
Yeah.
And he would do it now with everything happening. And then he starts talking about all of his loss, and it's really just from a different perspective than Barry's. And I really love the way he gave this. It's something only a close friend can do, right? Where Ollie's bearing out his own humanity to Barry, his own vulnerabilities, and laying him out and just saying, listen, this dude needs to know my demons, what's happened to me and where I'm at, the stuff that I don't show normally in my hard exterior, because this is going to help him. So he's putting himself on the line emotionally to tell Barry this stuff. And I really loved the acting in this whole sequence of events. Barry's reactions to what Ollie was saying, what Ollie was doing, both of them really played this scene very well. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole four-parter, just because of the friendship between the two that's genuine. As a geeky fan of comics, I always loved the superhero friendships. And when you portray them as well as they do here with these two characters, it really is some of my favorite stuff on TV.
Oh, big time. Big time. And again, everything you said about, especially the way, Stephen Amell did it and he presented it, and just, he's kind of got that Arrow voice, which is kind of a Batmanish voice.
Sure.
But, he has a little bit of a gruff, but a little darkness to it. And I love just how he delivered those lines and just the way he presented it. And as you said, he bared his soul to his friend, and he told him something that he never knew. Barry never knew this stuff about Ollie, never knew what he went through. And I love that, just that moment that this was the right time for this revelation between these two friends. I completely agree with you. That was one of my favorite scenes throughout Invasion.
And maybe something Ollie would have never revealed to him under other circumstances. But recognizing in this moment that my friend needs this, so I got two choices here. I either hold this in and let him suffer, or I'm a true friend and lay it all out. And he chooses to be the true friend, which is the braver thing. It's the more heroic thing, the harder thing to do. The superhero battle. Man, is that awesome. And the reason why. The Dominator's machine did this whole thing where it took over the superheroes. So you got Barry and Ollie going up against all of their friends in a battle that was just... This is how it happens in comic book team-ups.
Yeah.
And it was done so well here. The choreography of fights in these shows are really well done. And it's something you can't take lightly because we've seen it look bad before in comic book-related media. So when you get it done so well like this, I literally felt like I was watching the superheroes fight, and I loved the balance of that. And is leading to Wally saying, I'm not going to let this happen, and showing up on the scene, in many ways validating in a moment here, because I'm just watching it right now. I'm like, this is so awesome. He came in and he's like, he's all confident. He's like, look, I did it. I saved everybody. Not quite.
Again, it was funny because it validated both what Wally was saying, but also what Iris was saying. In that he was needed at that moment, but he did have that time when he let his guard down, and he got it handed to him by a Kryptonian. But again, it's weird because on one hand I'm saying he shouldn't have been out there, but if they had been spending time training him, he would have known. Okay, don't let your guard down in the middle of a fight, especially when you're dealing with someone who's as fast as you, because that's the thing with Supergirl. She's as fast as the Flash. So she's got that speed as well going. So it was a really cool moment where it was validating what both sides were saying. But, I absolutely loved these scenes. And it was, again, the only thing I would have liked to have added is if Caitlin had taken off the bracelets. And if she had just said, you know what, I got to do this. I got to try. And if we had another Killer Frost moment, where she throws down and tries to help them. And it could have been that whole her fighting the darkness, maybe.
Yeah. There's so many things here that could be really cool in how they're handled. The escape from the heroes, where when Ollie's carrying Wally along with him, there was this real sense of desperation because, again, they're fighting superpowered heroes that we would root for any one of them one-on-one in their own solo program.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have them here is just great. I loved the running up and down the buildings, Supergirl using her powers. These are things that you just don't normally get to see. I remember watching reading, I should say, Superman versus the Flash, the big race. And I love the way that this felt very reminiscent of that type of thing.
Yeah, and well, it's the race plus because she's shooting at him as well. I loved the sequence when he's running up the building, she's flying down, and she shoots at him. He goes, "Whoa!" Does the loop around. Again, great action, kind of funny moments, cool superhero hoorah type of stuff. I love this. This again, you talk about the choreography of the fight. You know, whoever laid out this stuff absolutely knows what the heck they're doing. This was a beautiful choreographed sequence.
Especially when they're like stalking him in the shadows and he's stalking them, you know, trying to find a way to take advantage of three people who really are very closely tied to him.
Oh God, yeah. And again, it's each side had their own battle that they had to deal with. You know, each side had just that great fight that was, you know, I love the Ollie moments where he's reaching, the arrow's not there anymore. Uh-oh, you know, and yeah, these are some great moments. I was like, man, this is cool. And you saw it coming, but the fact that I saw the ending coming with her flying through the device and everything and her physically destroying it, but I still enjoyed it. And that's, to me, is a great that shows something that's really just well crafted. If I know what's going to happen, but I still said, yeah, when it happens, you know, it's
the journey being more important than the resolution. In some cases, the resolution needs to be a mystery. That is the point. In this one, it isn't. It's the journey. It's the beginning and the resolution of it are really secondary to what you want, and you want their efforts put into those key sequences that we're talking about here. Because if you don't have those, you know, the Fight Club moments and the way that they play out and then learn something about Barry and Ollie and their own ability to use strategy, I just thought that part was really super cool. The way that it was, and to your point, you're right. You don't lose anything then when you step outside that, and you're just plugged into your wall jack with connectivity. I mean, that thing is it's just woof.
Yeah. Now, the thing I want to know is, of these characters, which one are doing, how much of their own stunts are they doing? Because we know Stephen Amell is pretty physical with his own stunts, but he still has the stunt people helping him out for some of the more dangerous stuff that can get killed. But the same thing like with the actress who plays Sarah Lance. Because you watch some of these fight sequences, and I think it's actually her doing it. I think she does a lot of her own physical stunts as well.
I admire that whatever level it is. Because I know nowadays, here's the thing. I'm sure that there's plenty of actors and actresses that would do all of their own stunts because they'd want to. Or as many as they possibly could. I do think there's a point where, depending on the nature of the stunt, and the fact that these are their main players, they have to protect them. So they only will let them do what I'm sure they're guaranteed are going to be safe for them. So I would imagine some of the choreographed scenes are being done by them whenever possible. Those would only be done by somebody else's if you were doing some of the moves that were done in this may have needed a fill-in to do the moves. I would be interested to know which ones were done by them and which ones by doubles.
Yeah, because some of that fight sequence between her and Ollie, that was the two of them doing it. Those are the two actors, actually throwing down and, doing the kicks and whatnot. So
how do you know?
Yeah, just, looking at it, when I start, because I've watched this, a couple of those fight sequences so many times, you see, the body mechanics and you see the way, you'll see flashes of the face and you'll see different stuff. And I'm like, I'm saying it's them. I think it's them. I'm not 100% certain. I'll be honest with you. But, just looking at, when I watched some of those fight sequences, it looked like it was actually the two actors, throwing down. I know a lot of times with Stephen Amell, you can see clearly it's him doing the physical, the street running stuff. He actually is that. He's got, some physical to him.
Cliffhangers are pretty important in these shows. We actually had three cliffhangers. Technically four, because Legends kind of building to something else. And, just like, those next issue blurbs that we have in comic books that get you really excited for the next episode, these did that for me. And there were a couple of these that I watched, where I had 2 days worth of the programs together. I tried to stay pretty close in watching this one just because I knew we were doing it for the show, but it didn't always work out. And I really like the way that the Flash handles epilogues, where you get like this sweet moment, but it reveals something about where things are going. And then you also get these moments where you get to see the cliffhanger of what's going to come on for the next episode. And when people were snatched left and right, I really felt a sense of danger, even though I knew, they're not going to kill anybody out of that batch. But I felt a sense of danger. And that's good writing, too, to what you're talking about. When you can suspend that disbelief in the moment, and I just know these people are in trouble. I mean, they're being taken by the Time Dominators. I kind of had a feeling what was going to happen to them, though. And I really liked how that played out. And that's something we're going to, that'll be a big focus on our next episode.
Yeah, and you talk about just the end. I like how they did do the continued in, and they showed what's next. Again, as you talk about how, like, in the comics where they do the crossovers, they tell you go to issue number yada yada. So that was kind of a cool thing. But also, like, in the beginnings of these episodes, when they flash through all the different logos.
Yes.
And it ends with whichever one is that episode. And I thought that, for me, was another cool one going, oh, okay, neat. Yeah, they're going through all the episodes. So that was kind of a cool thing.
I did like the desperation of that last one where Barry's running to Ollie to try and grab him and yank him out of the beam. I thought that was really cool as well. I don't know, it's just, this has been, as far as taking a look at the first half of the crossover. And I agree with you on the to be, like, it's because this one said at the end, to be continued in Arrow. And that's important because a lot of people maybe don't watch all 4 shows. They watch 1 or 2 of them, or maybe casually watch some of the other shows and aren't caught up. You would want to know that, hey, you're going to want to start following these other shows because this is pretty much so moving forward. You need to be on board this journey with us. One thing we never really talked about, I liked the fact that they kept, and I was a big one saying they're probably going to find a way to bring her into our universe. I like that they kept Supergirl in our universe. I thought that was a cool move. I like the way they're handling this. I didn't see them going this way, and I'm so glad they did.
Oh, I'm big time happy that this is what they're doing with her and how they're keeping her, in her own separate universe. And again, this is the multiverse. This all fits. This works in the comics and it works in the TV show. And people who aren't regular comic readers completely understand this. Like my sister, she's not a comic book reader. She watches Supergirl. She watches Flash. So for this one, she watched all 4 just because she wanted to see, the whole story. She wanted to see it all play out. But she completely followed everything, and she had no problems whatsoever with it. And she's not a comic book reader. She's not even, into the comic book fan stuff. She's a, she's a Win fan. The actor, she started watching really Supergirl because, as I said, he's a Broadway guy. So she's like, hey, I'm going to watch, his show. So that's how she really got into the Supergirl stuff.
That's cool. Did you get a chance to talk to her at all about the crossover? How did she feel about it? Did she
No, I haven't had a chance. I'm going to actually probably talk to her tomorrow about it. So hopefully maybe next episode I'll have, just some comments. But, my mom watched the crossover. And it's funny. I'm right now rewatching the Supergirl episode, the ending of the Supergirl episode. And you were right. It is the exact same shot for shot. So they basically just took the same shot and pulled it in. It
doesn't take anything away from your comment, though, because what you were really commenting on was the fact that you liked that it was cyclical.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you on that. So, your comment's validated because I really liked that, too. I liked the time placement. It was like, this is when it happened with them. And I needed that because it was a short enough sequence that plugging that back in, I didn't feel cheated. If anything, I felt rewarded because I wanted to know when did this happen? And I like seeing the other side of it, the mirror side of it. I like when they do that. I like when they do it in comics.
And it's like with how in the beginning of the Flash episode, they showed Ollie and Barry up against, you really got us into this, Barry. What? They went through the whole thing with their coming. Oh, that's the heat vision. And then later in that same episode, they redo that whole scene again, but then they show continuing on. So they put it back in there, and it's just, not even a couple minutes, but it's still, I like the fact that they kept that in there. It's that continuing, and it's, I don't know. It was again, I really love just how they're pacing this and how they're laying everything out.
Yeah, I do too. I can't wait to talk about the second part. We'll do that next episode.
Oh God, yeah.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro claw for carving through metal doors.
Ancient spirits of evil, please transform this decayed body to Mumra, the ever-living. Yeah. Hey, how you doing, Simon Jim? I was just gushing about that new Thundercats and He-Man book. Jim Shankland is right on point. That book is awesome. That book is so much better than the cartoon because the cartoon was made for kids that it's just, I have no words for it. I'm just so happy with that book. My fiance just gave me the green light. She told me I can collect about 65 books a month, which is really below my standards of collecting, but you got to start somewhere. She said, Magzilla said you can collect 65 books and you can get 5 miniseries and you can get 2 trades a month. So I should be able to make that work. I've been listening to the show a while now, so I'm up to episode 275, and I always notice the word y'all call palate cleansers, and I know in the last couple of episodes I also told you guys that I miss the Legion and just Society a lot. But I do have a replacement book for the Just Society. It's not the Just Society, but it kind of take their place for me, and that book is called Earth Society. I'm hoping DC can keep this book around because I picked up the trade World's End, and I enjoyed it a lot. So then I picked up volume 1 and 2 of Earth Society, and I will be soon picking up 3 and 4. This book, I don't know why we are not talking about this book. I don't know why the world is not talking about this book. This book is incredible. I mean, wow, what can I say? All-Star Squadron, Infinity Incorporation, Just Society, Young All-Stars, all amalgamated into one kind of book if you read all that stuff in the 80s. Good job, DC. And Sean, I know you was always wondering what the first book you ever read. Well, I know what the first book I read was. The first actual book that I've ever read in 1978 from my late friend Michael West. He gave me a book that you all may know of and heard of. The first book I ever read was Flash 123. Yes, the Flash of Two Earths. And when you think about that book in DC perspective, that book is probably DC's greatest book ever published because it actually gives us the universe in DC Comics we have today, and actually Splinter books from other companies followed that model from that one book. So if you want to sell one book that was the greatest published book for DC, probably is Flash 123. Now I know it's a lot of other great books, but that book is a milestone in comic book history. Brought us into the Silver Age for DC, gave us all these great characters that's lived on forever. And let's talk about that. Phantom Lantern Putz. Oh man, this guy is so horrible that I would just buy a book with this guy in it. Because I've always wanted to see someone be able to use the power of the whole spectrum lantern. I kind of wish he could do the white and black lantern also, which would just bring it over the top. But this guy is what you guys always talk about, is a putz. No, useless. He's a useless superhero. He has no value, no morals. He's worse than the Human Flame. He's worse than Canterbury Cricket. Subject number 1 from the Project Superman book. This guy's horrible. And while we gushing on other books, I've been gushing on this new Superman book, the one that's taking place in Shanghai. When that book first came out, I was apprehensive. But like you guys always say, you got to give a book an arc before you can just start talking about the book. It's horrible if you haven't read but the first panel in the book and you saying it's horrible. After issue 5, oh, I'm loving this book. I kind of like it. He has Superman-type power, but it kind of works different. DC is knocking this book out the ballpark. People, go out and try this book. We need books to last around. If you want something new and different, then try this book. I know it has the S symbol, and a lot of you guys out there probably don't like Superman, but it's not like Superman. It's a total different read. Please go out there and pick up this book. I am really passionate about this book. Next book I was gushing about, you haven't been able to talk to it about this book on the platform yet, but the Suicide Squad new relaunch, this book It's hitting it pretty good. It started off slow for me, but like you said, gotta give it some legs, let it get some breathing room. Now it's rolling. It's rolling. I mean, they fought Zod in the book, for crying out loud. They never, usually they never fought no one that type of that power level in the past Suicide Squad books. And then we lose Captain Boomerang. I hope he's not going for good, with comic book magic. We might could bring him back. But, man, I hated to see him go. I kind of always liked that guy. Now, from the old books that I still miss, I really miss the Lobo book, and I miss the Sinestro book. And I was picking up that Legends of Tomorrow book, that book that cost $900 an issue. It was 6 issues with Firestorm and the Metal Man. I know, Jim, you probably picked it up because you like the Metal Man, and I know, Sean, you like Firestorm. I know you probably picked that book up. That book was not talked about. I didn't ever see nobody talking about it. I never seen anyone buy it. But I really enjoyed that book, and I wish DC would have kept that book going. I would have kept paying the $7.99 for that book, for those features we got. We got in that book, we got Firestorm, we had Sugar and Spike, which I don't have a lot of experience when I read those tattered copies back in the day, but I wasn't never like the funny comic books back then so much. I wanted the superhero stuff. Next book I'm going to gush about is the Young Animal line. Okay, we got our new Vertigo. I've read everything except Mother Panic. I heard you guys did a review. Now, Magzilla told me I can't add no books to the list, but I can get the trade, so I will support that book in trade, even though I do get the Doom Patrol and Floppy, because anytime a Doom Patrol book comes out, I am going to support it. I know when books come out, some books going to go down with the ship, but I don't care. I'm supporting the Doom Patrol. The book is great. Even the Cave Carson book, I don't have a lot of experience when that book stuff came out prior to my reading. When I was around, you hardly ever seen that guy appear. So I don't have a lot of experience with him, but that's what Wikipedia is for and showcase issues is for, to go back and read the history of these guys. The next book I want to gush about is Future Quest. And I know you guys grew up with the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons. This book is pretty fun. Whoever thought they would see a Mike toy in a comic book? Are you serious? I mean, and the Dino Boys. I mean, we getting all this Johnny Quest rolled up into that one book. The Galaxy Trio. I mean, goodness, I just don't know what to say about DC right now. This new attitude, this new universe, this whole new concept. I feel like I'm in the 80s again. I'm happy reading comic books again. I just don't never want to stop reading books. I don't even get mad when I see my comic bill because I'm having so much fun. And the last book I'm going to gush about, which I never thought I was going to never talk about on this podcast, is The Flintstones. The new take on that book is absolutely amazing. The art style is so unique. They got them totally different looking from the cartoon. I'm gushing over this book. People, go out and try this. Do not think this book is a joke. It's not a comedy book per se. It's kind of got serious issues in this book. They even went to war in a Flintstone comic book. I mean, woo! This is amazing. And until the Human Flame and that Put Phantom Lantern and that other Put, the Canterbury Cricket, become charter members of the JLA, make mine raging bullets. Oh, and on one note, DC is being so successful with their bi-weekly stuff. Even Marvel next year are going to start doing their stuff bi-weekly for the new 3 X-Men titles that's being launched next month. So that bi-weekly stuff is working for DC. The competition is seeing it, and you may see other companies doing it. Make mine raging bullet, guys. Sean and Jim, Excelsior. Love you guys, podcast. Keep up the good work, buddies.
I'm going to steal one from you. Outstanding.
I know,
I like hearing...
Hold on, wait, Sean.
Okay.
That gets a...
And this is the part where you tell us that you actually did it.
Yep. Dude, I don't think I need to say anymore that I actually do it. When I give you that.
Hey,
come on.
Every episode has a new listener, so you want to keep that in mind.
When I say big toe, just like when I say I'm going to give you 2 thumbs up and a big toe, I am raising my big toe. And by the way, I did give that voicemail 2 thumbs up and a big toe.
I want to apologize to that new listener. I know you won't be back, but it was Nice to have you for a show. One of the things I liked about this voicemail, and I'm pleased to anybody out there, I really love what Russell did here. He just was like motivated, and he said, there's some titles that, Sean and Jim haven't had a chance to talk about. They're books that I'm really digging, and I just want to get the word out about them. Earth 2 Society, I love, and I'm a big fan of that. It's funny, I don't look at that as my JSA replacement. It's kind of carved out its own piece for me, but certainly every book that he's mentioning, it fits in that category for me. So I agree with him 100%. It fits Infinity Inc. It fits All-Star Squadron. It's, it's that book that's, because of the fact that it's not on our Earth, it's outside of the continuity, and they've embraced the fact that they can play it with its own continuity. And I really love it. It's a great title, and something that I've really grown to enjoy. He mentioned the Hanna-Barbera books. Have you read any of those, Jim?
I haven't read any of those books, and I think I may pick up, get some digital downloads and actually pick them up that way and go digitally on those. Because that's something I've been doing with, if there are books or series out there that I'm not picking up, I hear somebody rave about them, like, you know what, let me go jump on that. And I'll go, and go right through the site and and pick up a couple of the issues and read them and see what we got going on. I especially want to see read the Flintstones stuff, because I didn't before, but I'm like, wait a minute, I think maybe I'm going to need to check this thing out. So I'll do next time I do my digital ordering, I'll pick up I'll do a search for the Flintstone stuff and get some of that Hanna-Barbera stuff.
Flintstones is great, and the one that he was mentioning, the Future Quest, it's Johnny Quest, Space Ghost, and Herculoids. So it's it's great, straight out of Saturday Morning, and I love the fact that that book's just another great and fun book to read. Both surprising, because usually when you do books that are based on properties, but they really launch them with a modern sensibility to them. So they're different takes. They don't invalidate anything that you watched or enjoyed before. They just make it like this relevant take on it for today. And they're really good. They're really, really well done. Top talent who are just delivering some really great books. Did you read Cave Carson yet?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay.
I have, it right there to read it, but everything going on with the show and life and whatnot, I haven't been able to actually physically pick it up and read it. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
That's one of the Young Animal ones we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to make that a point on an upcoming episode. It'll probably be when issue 2's out. Well, issue 2 I think is out. Whatever issue is out at that point in time, we'll do it and jump on and talk about that particular book, because it's one I'd like to talk about on the show, so I will save my comments for now. But thank you, Russell, for calling in. I actually really liked his stories about these books that he likes and his passion behind, I don't want these books canceled. They're books that I'm really digging, and here's why. This show, sometimes we in the past have gotten criticism for being, oh, you guys love everything. It's not true. We don't talk about everything. As Russell's pointing out here, we don't have the time to get to all the books. My problem with our recording is that there's a lot of geek culture stuff relating to DC that I want to talk about on this podcast. We just don't have enough time to talk about it all. So that's part of life. And if I'm going to talk, I want to talk about the things that I really enjoyed, unless there's something where it's like, this is something that's really discussion worthy, this event that happened, then it's well worth it for me. But I'm more motivated to talk about books that I really enjoy. I got nothing in my pull list that I'm like, that book sucks. So I don't have that to give you. And sometimes a book that's in, kind of the middle right now is there's no passionate dialogue about it. I'm enjoying it. Good read. But I don't have a lot to say, which is why it falls middle ground for me. And it doesn't make for a good podcast. It's, great, thanks. So I like that he called in with a lot of passion about some books that he really wanted people to read, because he wants them to be around for a while. And that's interesting when there's a kind of a more niche book that, Earth 2 Society is a great example of that, that you would hope that book continues on. And I can't wait to see where that's going to go. I wonder what's going to happen with the Justice Society in the DC universe proper, though, because we've already seen hints of it. And I can't wait to see how that's all going to play out down the road. It's really great stuff. I'm just having a great time reading right now. I love his paring back. I'm like, that's paring back? That's great.
A tough call. You got, and it's sometimes you got to make that tough call, or others make the tough call for you. And I feel for you, man. It's But I think I can make that work, and I like that. That's you gotta stick with what some of the cool stuff, and he's got some great reads there, and I'm loving Suicide Squad right now. That is actually one of those. I'm so glad he brought that up because that's a book I really do want to. We got to find time to talk about because, on paper, or quick snide comment could say, oh, they're just doing something off of the movie. Yeah. You know what? It's not the movie. It's not. There's gonna be some. Maybe there's some parallelizations between the two, but you know what? That book is its own strength, its own thing, and it's an awesome Suicide Squad stories going on. I'm absolutely loving that book. That's something that if you didn't pick it up or you picked up an issue and you didn't like it because it's too much like the movie, go back to it, give it a read through because give it a full story arc, and you'll be saying, dang, this is a Suicide Squad story. Okay, this is good.
And this has been another Walking with Whatnot. So thank you for joining us for that particular segment. And we'll. No, I totally agree with your comments. It was very cool. That was our show voicemail line. And if you haven't called into the show before, it's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We always put that in the show notes, which are always up on the website. So if you don't get the number, just go to the website and find the number there. It's Skype. We do our voicemail through Skype. So if you have a Skype account, you can just log on, click on us, and leave a voicemail message that way. We really do love having you part of the show. Russell's comments, I was through a lot of it. I was just sitting there. You and I were both. You guys can't hear this, but we were chuckling along the way at a lot of just the things he was bringing up, reminiscing, and just talking about his passion. And it was really fun to have a passionate listener call in. So feel free to please call in and share with us your comments on what are you digging right now. What are you reading? What do you want to recommend to people that you're like, hey, I think this is under people's radar. I think it's cool, and here's why. Do you remember the first comic you ever read? I know I've talked about it in the show before. I can go back pretty far. I was born in 1971. I can go back to the 1970s to Marvel Team-Up books, but here's the thing. I had a subscription to Marvel Team-Up. Those were not my first comics I ever read. So I was reading Batman and Spider-Man stuff before that. I can't tell you what my first issue was, but I distinctly remember that was my first subscription. For Christmas one year, I was given a subscription to Marvel Team Up, and it was Spider-Man teaming up with a bunch of heroes. And I loved it because every issue I got to know somebody else in the Marvel Universe that I had no idea, like, who the heck is this guy? Because I was a Spider-Man, Batman guy. I didn't know the other characters. And so it was a great way to get to know them. My favorite crossover, and it was one that it wasn't until I was an adult that I got to finish, was Spider-Man and Iron Fist. And it was a two-parter, which was rare. And I had to have picked this up. This had to have been outside of the subscription. So it was an early book that I picked up. I must have picked it up in like a 3-pack or something. Remember those old plastic 3-pack?
Yeah.
You open up, it's 3 different titles. One of them was Marvel Team Up, and that was probably how I got it. I got the first part of it, and it leaves you with this great cliffhanger on Iron Fist. And I'm like, what happened? It wasn't until actually we were recording this podcast that I'm like, this is stupid. I can find these books now. I kind of want to know, after all these years, almost 40 years later, what happened to Iron Fist? So I got to really enjoy that, and it was cool to. But that's one from when I was younger that I definitely remember. I had some of those big treasury editions like Hulk and Batman and stuff like that. I don't know which book I read first, though. So I'm actually a little envious that you can kind of pin down the actual book that you've read. My entry gateway to comics was the television shows. It was Batman 66 and the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon. The Spider-Man.
Yep.
That, and Electric Company. He was on Electric Company, too. Those were my gateways into it. I was just in awe of both Batman and Spider-Man. And then started reading comics around it. And through their team-ups is how I got to know everybody else. Because Brave and the Bold was out. Where you had Batman teaming up with everybody. And those were some of my favorite books when I was younger because it was always a new guest. You got to know one more new character. And that was thrilling stuff. Did you read any of those team-up books when you were... I know your comic experience was very different than mine. You didn't have much, so... Were you aware of them at all growing up, or?
I think I did read some of them. I think I remember reading a Spider-Man X-Men team up. Mm-hmm. I remember reading that one. I don't remember what happened in it, but I remember it was one of those. It was kind of a neat, Spidey and the Mutants, because Spidey was Spidey, and he was cool with everybody. So, and it was that whole Spider-Man team up kind of stuff. So I was reading it when it was always Spidey and somebody, or that was kind of when I remember seeing it. For me, reading the early memories I have on reading are the X-Men books, the X books, when they started with Uncanny, and then they had X-Men, then they had X-Factor, X-Force, and they had all the different X books. That was when I really started, I could say I was collecting books back then. Before that, I was borrowing people's books, and kid I knew in elementary school. I used to borrow his books, and he was an X guy, so he was letting me borrow his X-Men stuff. And on my own, I think the first comic I ever read, we got, and I shared the story before, when I was in Scouts, our scout had, our troop had, written to Marvel and gotten some free books, and they gave just basically a sampler package, and every scout got a couple of the books, and me and my two brothers were all scouts, so we each got a book, so we got 3 books, and ours was a reprinting of X-Men number 2. There was a Power Man and Iron Fist, where it was I can't even remember what happened in it. It was, the villain who has the tentacle, not Doc Ock, but he's got like the whiplash, kind of the electrical whiplash things, the laser whips.
Is that Whiplash?
Maybe, or that's who they were going up against. And I still remember there was a scene in there where Iron Fist does his ninja stuff, and he's sneaking up on the bad guys, and then Power Man's trying to imitate, and he's doing all the exact same moves, except the bad guys knew exactly where he was, and he finally goes, "Oh, forget it," and he just charges and punches them. And I still remember just seeing that, not knowing who these characters were, but I was still chuckling at the fact that the one guy's all ninja-y, and the other dude's big, powerful, and a badass. So he was just, he tried it. He goes, "Your way works for you. I'm going to do it my way." And then the third book was Avengers, and it was right as the introduction of Wonder Man. So it was when he first came on the scene. The ending of the issue is him first appearing, kind of in that zombie sort of state, because Vision had taken part of his brain or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it was, but it was the new declaration of who the new Avengers were going to be. And it was this whole issue about, these different people, well, they're not going to be in it, and they're not going to be in it. And they showed the different people, and they had the final pages, the new Avengers step up, and that's when Wonder Man shows up going, "Give me my brain," or I can't remember exactly what he said, but those are the 3, I would say those are the first 3 comic books I ever really read.
Whiplash, I'm almost positive, was the villain too. I'm not 100% sure, without actually finding the comic that you read, but from the way you described it, it sounds like it could have been Whiplash. That's cool stuff. I really I love talking about old comics and experiences like that. The reason why I ever got that on the brain, what was my first comic issue? Comic Geek Speak used to always do that whenever somebody would be on their show for the first time, which was the first book that you ever read. And I remember I was on one time and I was asked that, and I had a book that was out there, but it was really the first book I remembered reading, not my first. I know it wasn't the first book I ever read, because I don't remember. Which I don't know, it's just strange. I think I've read so many comics that may be the reason why I can't chronologically put in place. But here's the thing, my parents at a very young age, my mom in particular, was very supportive of it. Mainly because I didn't have that issue where it's like, well, he only reads comic books. I read novels and books and things like that, so I always enjoyed books. So I didn't really have that pushback with comics. It's interesting. It's interesting to talk about. It's interesting to see what other people did. I'm glad that he knows. You seem to have a real good handle on yours, too. So it's good stuff. Good segment. And hope some people call in for our next episode.
There they are, all alone except for that old character.
I would like to remind everyone about our show website. It's ragingbullets.com. It links to our Facebook page, and it also links to our Twitter. So if you're fans of those services, feel free to follow us on those particular services. Also want to mention, of course, as always, our Facebook group. We share that with infinitecomics.com. Wonderful community of people over there. It's really their group. If you haven't been part of a Facebook group community before, you definitely want to check out the gang over there. It's just such a wonderful group of people. I love popping in and checking out what's going on. Great conversation. I find out usually a lot of news and things that I didn't know because there's commentary already going on about it. There's an immediacy to that group. It's a wonderful, amazing, fun group of people. You know, we talk on this episode on one of the voicemails about people feeling like people are your friends. And I feel like there's so many like-minded people there who just love this medium and just geek culture in general that I just feel like every time I see a post there, I'm like, oh, there's a cool connection to the dialogue that's going on. Whether you agree with everything that everybody says or not, there's been times where I've had debates with people over there who I really respect. And I love the fact that we just have that honest, open dialogue. A lot of times it's about speculations, the same junk you and I do on here. Where it's, you know, you and I debating over some nonsensical thing. But to us, it's important. And I think that's one of the great things about the community. It's a safe group of people to chat and share your thoughts and ideas about things that are going on in comics right now between the pages. And I just can't encourage you enough to join up with that group. We're on Google+. I have my PlayStation Network account. Feel free to connect with us whatever way is the best for you, and we love having you part of the show. I also do want to take a quick moment, you know, as we're heading close to our 500th episode, to just kind of reiterate something I said a little earlier on this podcast. I want to thank the listener community. We don't have an advertising budget, and we have an audience. And where that audience comes from, you know, initially it's people just searching for DC Comics related podcasts, but eventually it becomes word of mouth. And, you know, so many of you post in forums, Facebook groups, Google Plus communities, Twitter, whatever. You retweet, you shout us out in places. That really is where we get our audience from. And you have been the backbone of helping build this podcast. Wherever you jumped in, you let one person know about this show. It helps. So I just want to thank everyone for that. There's an extra amount of time on your end where there was something that we said or some value you found in, whether you listen to every episode or certain segments or whatever, some value that you found it was worth shouting out to somebody else. We really appreciate that because it just points people towards our podcast. We're a niche show. We're not for everybody. Don't need to be. I want to be for the audience that finds value in what we do. And we really rely heavily on you to help point people to this show that might be interested. So thank you so much for doing that. It's just something I don't shout out enough on the show, and I thought this is a good time to, as we head to 500, thank you for providing that for us, because it's something that we do greatly appreciate. Sponsoring this episode once again, Jim, is dcbservice.com and instocktrades.com. What are our friends at DCB Service doing now?
Well, they're continuing their bundles, and it's actually a wonderful way for you guys, you know, for the Rebirth titles, for the Vertigo, for the Young Animals. They bundle them. They give you some great bundle packages, 50% off, great way to save some money. But also, speaking of 50% off, they've got something else that's 50% off, and that is the Justice League Power Rangers, issue number 1 of the 6-issue miniseries, 50% off, only $199. Thank you, thank you, thank you. DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, once again, I mentioned the deals of the week earlier. They also have the latest releases section, which is always fun for me as well, because this is where I check out what have I missed that's just come out. Just for an example, they have the Batman Arkham Knight trade paperback, Volume 3. 45% off, only $9.34. These are stories that are connected to the recent video game release, and I love these. They have things like the Complete Suiciders, the Big Shake trade paperback, 45% off, only $16.49. Black Canary, Volume 2 trade paperback. New Killer Star, 45% off, only $8.24. This is a great way, if you've missed certain series, you've been wanting to read certain series, to check them out. I can't recommend enough just browsing through the site, whether it's, you know, you're looking for DC, Marvel, Image, whatever. Just checking out and honestly, all through comics. It's a great site to go to look for deals on the things that are interesting to you. They're constantly running specials, and for a hobby that really is about exploring and reading as much as you possibly can, it's a big help. I actually love the amount of content that I have comic-wise, because I have very diverse tastes, and the only way to be able to do that is through these discounts. So thank you, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com, for supporting our show. Jim, our next episode, we are going to do, actually, is a requested episode. We've had a number of listeners who have sent us messages saying, hey, would you guys do something on the upcoming 4-part TV crossover? Yes, that's our next show. We're going to chat about the 4-part TV crossover from Supergirl all the way through to Legends of Tomorrow. The Invasion episode that looks like it's coming up. So we will see everyone next week with that.
Bye!
On November 13th, Sean Whalen was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend Jim Segulin. Sometime earlier, Segulin's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whalen as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulin as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You-Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.